Are you ready to know what you don't know about social media? Well, then you're in the right place. This is the Seb Rust Show on Social Buzz on Air. Social Media Radio. Bring you tips, tricks, tools, and extreme value. Broadcasting from our studio in Miami. And now, here's your host, Sebastian Rust.
What's happening, party people? Sebastian Rusk here, your host as always. Hey, welcome to the show. So this episode breaks down exactly what you need to know in order to get your podcast in the iTunes store. So I get this question a lot. It's a frequently asked question at the Podcast Launch Lab. So I thought, you know what? Let me go live on Facebook for 10 minutes, break it down, explain exactly what it's all about, and answer any questions. That's exactly what I did. So here's the episode. I had a few. It's unedited, if you will, raw and uncut with hecklers and all. And pardon my disruption as I bring attention to these hecklers on here. But if you spend 10 minutes, you are going to get exactly what you came for, and that's finding out exactly what you need to do to get your podcast in the iTunes store. Any questions about doing that? Hit me up on Instagram, Twitter, at SebRusk, SEBRUSK. Let's get down to it. What's happening, party people? How we doing? Happy Monday to you. I don't know about you, but I was ecstatic to get back to work. After a very, very long 4th of July weekend, I pray that you didn't blow your hands off with any fireworks over the weekend and that your 4th of July was just ducky. Those of you here in the good old U.S. of A. Speaking of USA, big shout out to our U.S. women's team winning the 2019 FIFA Women's World Cup yesterday over the Netherlands. Very excited bunch that U.S. women's team is, and it was quite the celebration. I enjoyed watching the game yesterday and watching the USA bring it home. So I wanted to, as I continue to create these YouTube videos, I am given more of a reason that I should share the content, or should I say elaborate on the content that I'm creating with YouTube, and hopefully provide some value here on Facebook to help you better understand what you don't know that you don't know about launching a podcast. One of the most common questions that I get is, you know what? Hold on a second here. There we go. I wanted to cough. I don't know if you heard that or not. I think I turned the mic all the way down. Anyway, I'm getting situated here with my new equipment. Anyhow, I just launched a YouTube channel about a month ago. Just hit 100 subscribers. Yay! That probably doesn't mean anything to you. However, you cannot create a vanity URL. Vanity URL. Let's say that fast 3 times. You cannot create a vanity URL until you have 100 subscribers. So what is a vanity URL? It's youtube.com/your name. So in this case, it's youtube.com/PodcastLaunchLab. I'll go ahead and drop that in the comments here so that you guys can head on over to YouTube and subscribe if you haven't already. Now, what's different about subscribing on YouTube with the content there, it's not as much noise. So if you think of YouTube as the new television and shows and specific things that you look to educate yourself or find out, obviously Google and the internet are a phenomenal place to be able to do that, a wealth of information. And we've got some hecklers in the crowd, which I always welcome. Excellent here. The difference between a YouTube channel is you don't have as much noise. So So we've got some hecklers in the crowd here today. So I'm going to stay focused on the topic here, which is the Podcast Launch Lab YouTube channel and me extracting what those topics are on the videos that I'm creating in order to be able to provide value to you individuals here on Facebook. So today's topic is, what do you feel about the U.S. women's soccer team? I'm kidding. The topic today is how to get your podcast in the iTunes store. This is an FAQ. That's a frequently asked question for those of you not following along. And people often ask me, what does it take to get a podcast in the iTunes store? A lot of people, you would originally think that maybe you upload your podcast to the iTunes store, but nobody uploads anything to any of the distribution platforms. It's quite the opposite. The only place that you're uploading your podcast is from a hosting site. So if we back up real quick, let's say you record your podcast episode, you've got your recorded file. What do you do now? You've got an actual episode. What do you do now? Well, you would go sign up for a audio hosting account, something like SoundCloud, or we use pippa.io. There's a few of them out there. Libsyn is another industry leader. There's a few of them out there. Again, if you think about it like a YouTube channel where you need to upload the video in order for it to live somewhere, same thing works here with your podcast. You've got to upload the audio file so that it has somewhere to live. It's so that people can find it and listen to it, subscribe to it, etc. So first things first, record your episode, upload it to a hosting platform, sign up for a hosting platform. They're all about $15 or $20 a month. And once you've done that, then you will upload your podcast episode, and then your channel then has what's called an RSS feed. That's short for really simple syndication. Sorry, more hecklers in the crowd here. Really simple syndication. It's specifically it's basically a long URL that is attached to your podcast hosting account. So if you've got an account on SoundCloud, SoundCloud's going to provide you with an RSS feed that says soundcloud.com/socialbuzz on air and a string of different numbers. Based on that URL, that's what you submit into the iTunes store. So you go over to Podcast Connect. I'll drop that link in the comments too. So once you've uploaded everything, then you head over to Podcast Connect, you log in with your Apple ID, and that's where you would copy and paste the RSS feed URL that say SoundCloud gave you for your podcast hosting site, and click verify the URL. They'll make sure the RSS feed is valid, and then you'll go ahead and submit it from there. It'll be able to grab the artwork. It's very important that your artwork is all correct on your hosting site, meaning the logo for your show or whatever type of marketing collateral you utilize. So, more hecklers in the crowd over here. So, once all of that's done, then it's just a waiting period. So let's back up. Record the podcast episode. You have an audio file. Great. Go sign up for a hosting account so that you can upload your first episode somewhere. Something like SoundCloud.com. We use pippa.io. That's PIPPA.io. And then, of course, Libsyn is an industry leader. A lot of people utilize Libsyn. You can use whatever audio hosting platform that you choose to use, just as long as you can get something uploaded, and they'll provide you with an RSS feed on there. So it's pretty easy to navigate around. Once you sign up for the hosting account, it's going to walk you through uploading it. And then from there, the help section, you ask where the RSS feed URL is. It's different for everyone, but they make it readily available because the RSS feed URL is very important for you to submit it anywhere. iHeartRadio, Spotify, the iTunes store, Google Podcasts, anywhere you can submit your podcast where people could potentially listen to it that aren't currently listening to it is exactly where you want your podcast at. A lot of these hosting platforms, that's why we use Pippa, because Pippa helps distribute the podcast in addition to just being on the Pippa platform. So it's in iTunes, it's in Spotify, it's in Stitcher Radio, it's in TuneIn. It creates a video and posts it to YouTube. So that's really cool. We can reference our podcast episode on our YouTube channel. So that's, again, the ability to repurpose content is ridiculous this day and age. You've just got to do it. So for instance, again, I utilize the example of this video. I'll take this video, pull the audio off of it, create a podcast episode titled How to Get Your Podcast in the iTunes Store, and I'll upload it. My podcast episode for the week is done. I can also transcribe this live and turn it into a blog post. I can share this on the Podcast Launch Lab page. I can run an ad on that. There's several ways to be able to diversify and also extend, or more than anything, it's a hack. on being able to create multiple pieces of content with one piece of content. So I don't know if you have any questions about podcast or anything pertaining to that, or uploading it, getting it in the iTunes store. If you do, feel free to send me an email, srusk@PodcastLaunchLab.com, srusk@PodcastLaunchLab.com, or you can just message me here on Facebook. Any questions you have. I've got a free class available online in order to be able to launch your podcast. So if you go to PodcastLaunchClass.com, this is going to be in the comments for those of you listening to the podcast. This will be available in the show notes. And again, everything we do at the Podcast Launch Lab, not a mystery at all. I tell you all of our secrets. They're not even secrets. I just walk you through the entire process. The only difference is you'll never do it. Why? Because we have time and life and kids and summertime and school and vacations and work and business and side gig and entrepreneur and new business and new job and new opportunity and new travel and life, ladies and gentlemen, life. However, when you've got someone in your corner that knows what they're doing, that has a proven method of being able to create a podcast from nothing and turn it into something. Maybe you've already got videos that you want to repurpose into a podcast. We don't have to work that hard regarding creating the content. Well, we can do that too. So any questions you've got about podcasting, feel free to hit me up, send me a message, let me know. I hope this video or this podcast you're listening to right now has helped you really better understand exactly what you need to do in order to get your podcast in the iTunes store. Now, one more tip pertaining to the iTunes store. So if you get your show into the iTunes store and you come out of the gates just swinging, and a lot of people download it, subscribe to it, leave reviews, etc., iTunes will recognize that and they'll put that in the featured podcast. Could you imagine being the featured podcast in the iTunes store? It's free exposure to, I don't know how many bazillion people could potentially be seeing that. So that's the trick there with iTunes. Any questions about starting a podcast or getting your podcast in the iTunes store, hit me up, drop me an email, or feel free to message me right here. If you're listening to the podcast, all of my contact information will be in the show notes. Hope you guys are having an amazing Monday, and I will see all you guys next time. Hey friends, Sebastian here again. Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of the Seb Rush Show on Social Buzz On Air. I sure do appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to hang out with me. I sure do hope that you are leaving with exactly what you showed up for, which is more valuable information about how to get your podcast inside the iTunes store. Listen, if you haven't done so already, make sure you're subscribed to the show. This way you're going to get updates when a new episode drops. If you feel so inclined, leave us a 4 or 5 star review and whatever you want, actually. We love you either way. See you next time.